Before we get started on Dynamite After Dark, I have to say that there's a lot of things that I can put up with in professional wrestling. But one cannot put up with and will not tolerate, and will not watch any of his matches if it continues to happen, is Shawn Spears using the sharpshooter as a finisher. I cannot tolerate that ever.
You actually lasted longer than I thought you would. I didn't think you were.
Right at the top of the show.
I know, but you actually introduced the show first.
This is Dynamite After Dark. I'm your host, Sandman Shane Sabunia, along with my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff.
Hello.
And we are your live instant reaction here on Lords of Pain Radio, also broadcasting on YouTube regarding AEW Dynamite. So.
And if you are listening on YouTube, go ahead, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and if anyone has any advice on my audio, I would greatly appreciate it. I've tried every setting I can find. Anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Shawn Spears had a squash match tonight, which was just stupid in the first place. Who the fuck was this Spears against? Nobody. Him using a sharpshooter to win a match just made my blood boil completely.
I think that after tonight, the first one is maybe it's just me, and I'm sure it probably is, but I don't want to see the champ defended on pay-per-view.
It should not be defended on pay-per-view.
I mean, I'm okay with a TV championship because technically it's still TV, but a TNT championship should only be defended, not on a pay-per-view. I just, that's the first thought, is that why is this, I get it, big time matchup, it's something they've been building to for months, but at the same time, it's a TNT championship. It should be wrestled for on TNT, not on Double or Nothing, not pay-per-view.
I really don't understand the idea of the two guys that won tonight facing each other for the TNT championship. The reason I say that is because I still don't know what the roster is going to look like for that pay-per-view. In my opinion, maybe they know more than we know, and I mean, I'm sure they know more than we know, but maybe they do have a good lineup already set for it. But I would think that they'd want to kind of hedge their bets and have two big matches on there, not just one. For guarantee, for sure, and therefore I would have had, Rhodes and Archer lose their matches tonight, and still have a personal issue at Double or Nothing, and then have Allin and Dustin Rhodes be fighting over the championship at Double or Nothing.
Well, regardless, I don't think it should be fought over on Double or Nothing. It's called the TNT Champ, but
but they've already doing it on pay-per-view. The title's in the first place, but since they are doing it, and they are doing it on the pay-per-view, I just think that it would make more sense to have two big matches set up than just one from these. I think,
regardless, Archer losing would have been a huge bad call. I'm borderline questioning whether tonight's match was a bad call for Archer. When you're making him this dominant, in every match he's been in, he's just completely destroyed his. And that includes Cole. Cole Cabana barely got any offense in. For him to go 30 minutes and look beatable against Dustin, I'm going to have to think about it, but it almost kind of hurt what they were trying to portray with Archer up to this point.
Why do you think that? I mean, he's facing off against a veteran who's almost exactly the same size as him. It wouldn't make sense for him not to have a tough battle against him.
It just, with the way that they've been portraying him, maybe a match against somebody, a grizzled veteran, maybe a little bit smaller. I mean, if they were going to do this, the perfect guy to do it was Dustin. Because he's, like you said, 31-year vet. He's same size and everything, so it makes sense. But at the same time, I think it took a little bit away from Archer's dominant mystique.
At some point, they're going to have to take away from Archer's dominant mystique, don't you think? I mean,
yeah, but I feel like it
forever.
No, I just feel like it's too early. It's too early into his run.
It's too early into his run for him to be wrestling for a championship too, but they don't seem to care about that either.
So. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It kind of harkens back to the way everybody got bent out of shape about William Regal actually giving Bill Goldberg a match.
I'm sorry, but William Regal what?
Giving Bill Goldberg a match, or Steven Regal at the time.
Oh.
It's too early for him to be that. And I don't want to say that he was, it's the same situation, because Goldberg was ridiculously exposed. And I don't think that Archer was. I feel like he should have been a little bit more dominant in his win. With the story that they told at the end with them throwing in the towel and all that stuff, it just seemed a little bit out of place, because I never, 30 seconds before that, I didn't feel like Dustin was getting his ass kicked to the point where he needed to have someone throw in the towel for him.
I think no, Dustin was dominated for a lot of the match.
It didn't seem like he was that far out of it, that they had to bring in the storyline of throwing in the towel.
No, that was just a way to get Cody out there at the same time as Archer. Was all that was.
But to me, that was just, there were a couple of missteps that I would have rather seen differently. I'm not going to complain about it. It was a good match. We'll see where Archer goes from here. Maybe he continues to be dominant, maybe not. Obviously, he won't against Cody. But there was a few little missteps that I think could have been done better. I think if Dustin had been actually dominated to the point where he should have had the towel thrown in, that would have made more sense than him, damn near getting a 3 count on Archer, and then 30 seconds later having CT Marshall, or QT, whatever the hell his name is, try to throw the towel in.
Well, even like a little bit before that, I don't think I've ever seen a referee just allow someone to have their head slashed to an exposed turnbuckle and let the match continue.
Right.
So, that, to me, was a big mistake as well.
Yeah, there were a few little missteps like that, but all in all, I and the 2 commercial breaks in the middle of the main event hurt it, just like the 2 commercial breaks in the opening match hurt it.
Yeah, there was 3, and I think there was 3 in both. Was there 2 or 3 in both of these matches? I can't remember. Maybe it was 2.
All I know is the first match, there were 2 within the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They did their little opening. They had their commercial break after the match started. And then 10 minutes later, they had another commercial break. Yeah. It was the commercial breaks where there were too many and too close together to really give us the drama that we needed to get out of both those matches.
I agree. There were a few other there were some pacing issues with this episode, including those commercial breaks. But also, I thought having the 2 squash matches so close together was a mistake too.
Yeah, but at least they didn't have 3 in a row like they did a couple weeks before. And again, a lot of that's the talent they're working with. Keep in mind, these were all pre-recorded almost a month ago now.
Right. So, I'm not saying not have the matches. I'm saying that I'm talking about the pacing of them. Like you should. Like I think that Shawn Spears Abomination should have been right after the opening match, and then you have the tag match, and then you have the Exalted One versus People McNugget match.
All in all,
just having those 2 back to back, I thought was a bit much.
All in all, they had 5 matches.
I forgot about the Wardlow match. So I guess they kind of had. Maybe they did space it out. Maybe that did work out right because.
I guess they did have 6 matches, didn't they?
Yeah, so I guess either way you would have had to have 2 squash matches in a row in there.
They had nothing.
I guess it depends on whether you consider the Brody Lee match a squash match or not, but I kind of do. So.
Well, yeah. Marco didn't give much. He gave a little bit more against Brody Lee than he did against Lance Archer, but he still didn't give much.
Yeah.
But yeah,
unless you want to start the match with the squash match, which we both agreed was terrible a few weeks ago.
Right.
I guess they really did what they could with the matches that they had.
They did go against their formula. They had 6 matches, not a single woman on the night. except for Penelope and then Britt hitting Cody with a shoe. There was not even a woman's segment. There was nothing on this episode.
There was a Chelsea Green segment.
Was there? I totally fell asleep during that.
Did you really?
I mean
Chelsea Baker, not Chelsea Green. Chelsea Baker segment.
If there was, I fully fell asleep during that part, and I don't remember it at all. The only thing I saw was her hitting Cody with the shoe, and then Penelope Ford. I didn't see anything else from the women all night.
Yeah, well, a segment with her where they had like her makeup person was talking and about how she did the makeup for Chelsea, and then Baker pulled her aside, and when they came back, she said, "Oh, what I meant to say was how amazing it is that Miss Baker lets me do her makeup for her."
Oh, yeah, I totally missed that. Totally missed that.
Talking about Schiavone's teeth and saying that sometimes a role model is like what not to do, like not to have bad teeth or something like that.
And I'm perfectly okay if Jericho retires and we just get Jericho and Schiavone as the announce team going forward.
I still think it's too much chatter.
I think he talks a lot, but at least he's entertaining talking.
It is entertaining talking, but so there's still times I don't feel like the match has a moment to breathe with all the talking going on.
Yeah, that's true.
Not to say that it couldn't get better over time too, but the stuff about Texas at the end was just cracking me up. Where like you could think of shitty in Texas, so then he thinks of you got to see them all in a row.
There was another moment that he had when he was screaming about how Archer needs to punch Pineapple Pete in the face. I thought that was pretty humorous too.
Yeah.
He again had some pretty good one-liners throughout the show.
He did.
And next week is a live episode, which I'm looking forward to.
I really enjoyed the opening match tonight, other than the commercials in it, but I hated the finish.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, they talk so much on commentary about how when you're a pro wrestler, you're trained not to land on your back. Stay off your back as much as possible. You have the instinct to kick out when the 3 count's going on. And really, that kind of finish makes Darby Allin look like a complete idiot.
Yep, because his whole finishing move is to lay on his back, and now everybody knows that was watching that. All you have to do to counter that is to slightly roll to your side.
Yep, but then also he didn't even know his shoulders were down. Are you kidding me?
Right. Yeah, he just kind of sat there.
Right.
Yeah, that was a misstep. I thought the match itself was fine. Not as good as their first two, but definitely it was good for what it was. The ending sucked. I thought the tag match was really, really well done. I really enjoyed it.
We're not done with the opening match yet. So
we're not. You had more.
Yes, I do have more because
I
thought it was great that Cody finally didn't use a belt against his opponent in a match, but probably only because his opponent's a babyface. But he still showed what a scumbag he is by not only throwing his opponent into his wife, but then when his opponent goes to check on his wife, kicking his opponent in the face. What a fucking asshole move that was.
Didn't Jericho call him out for the belt shot too?
He may have, but I'm saying that, I think this whole thing about Cody being a babyface is just overblown because he does something heelish and scumbaggy in every match now.
Yeah, he always has. He has since his match against Dustin. He's always been.
Yeah, I just want to understand how Cody Rhodes is a babyface.
I've said that since day one that Cody's the biggest tweener on the roster who's only getting babyface pops because he's the face of AEW.
All right, fair enough.
He is, as far as I'm concerned, he's been nothing but a heel since day one. But because he's the guy who's the biggest face of the bunch, of the elite, of the people that started AEW, because he was the guy that was really front and center, even though he's no bigger a part of it than Nick and Matt and Kenny. He's the guy that everybody, for some reason, seems to love and give credit to for starting AEW. And, I'm okay with it because he's also the guy that is front and center on all the interviews. He's always the guy, that they're quoting in the media, things like he's always got a quote for something. So I'm kind of okay with it. But at the same time, I think he gets a little more love than he deserves when the other three deserve some of that same love that he gets. And I also think that he is a straight up heel character that is being cheered to the point where he is being forced into a babyface. But he's a lot like Hogan with taking the shortcuts, using the weight belt. The only thing he's not doing is the eye poke. Otherwise, he's exactly like Hogan was. Hogan was a big-time heel, but he was loved by the crowd, so he was a babyface.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think he really solidified himself as being the ultimate heel when he got a stupid tattoo, knowing it was a stupid tattoo, when his wife begged him not to get it, and he still got the fucking thing. So.
I begged him not to get it.
Huh?
I didn't know his wife begged him not to get it. She should have threatened divorce if he'd gotten it, because that is the worst tattoo ever.
Yeah, I don't know how she could possibly make love to a guy with that thing on it.
Just a horrible, horrible idea.
Totally agree. All right, move on to the tag match now. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I really enjoyed the tag match. I liked every part of it. I loved Orange Cassidy getting hit in the face with that chair shot from Jimmy Havoc and then just crumbling. And then, of course, to make his triumphant return at the end. I was really entertained with this, and I'm usually not so entertained with the no DQ matches and all the weapons, and especially a Jimmy Havoc match, because they're all the same with the weapons. But this I was actually very entertained with.
I was too. I really enjoyed that tag match. It was the match of the night for sure.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah. And I really like the ladder they've used the last couple of weeks. I didn't like the way they used it last week, but I think that ladder is just it's like an actual ladder people are getting slammed on and hurt on. It's not like a gimmicked up ladder that bounces like you see in the other promotions.
Or the aluminum ladders that just crumple when they get touched.
Right.
Yeah, it looks like that one hurts. That one looks like it hurts a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could say the same thing about the ladder wars ones we've seen recently in ROH as well, but I mean, it kind of stands out when it's live on national television.
And when it's not something you're used to seeing on it. I mean, at this point, we're used to seeing ladders in Ring of Honor. We're not used to seeing them yet in AEW.
True. So
it kind of stands out a little bit more because has there even been a ladder match in AEW yet? Oh, the Lucha Brothers and the Bucks.
Yeah, the Escaleria de la Muerte.
Yeah, but other than that, there hasn't been a ladder match.
Correct.
So I mean,
that's good. I want them to be very sparse with their gimmick matches.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too, and that's another reason why I'm not a big fan of these no DQ matches when Jimmy Havoc's involved, because it got to be so much in MLW. Like it was a weekly thing. There was one of these hardcore matches. And I don't want to see, AEW fall down that slope too, because it's so easy to do. It pops the crowds when there are some, it has its moments, but it can wear out quick.
Yeah, which is why I don't like that they're doing the street fight tag match a week after doing a street fight tag match.
There's another street fight tag match coming?
Yeah, next week it's Les Sexy Gods versus Matt Hardy and Kenny Omega.
Oh, I didn't listen. I didn't realize that was a street fight.
Yeah.
And I say it here, but was it 2 years we were singing Matt Hardy's praises, sending him off into retirement?
What's that?
Remember when Matt Hardy retired and we spent half an episode praising him and calling up his greatest moments and all this stuff? I feel like we should go back and delete that show to never be aired again. Oh, yeah.
Matt Hardy retirement show?
Pretty much, yeah, because he retired like the day we were going live. And we did our normal show, and then we spent like a half an hour praising Matt Hardy and how great he was and how much he meant to the business and all this stuff. And now he's back, older and wiser.
We're not really sure Matt Hardy's back.
Well, Matt Hardy did an interview at least last week.
That's true. But really, his essence is the essence of Damascus living in the body of Matt Hardy these days.
Ah, okay. We need to bring back the broken universe, the whole universe. Just bring it all back.
He did say that that he does want to bring it back when the time is right on AEW. He wants to bring Rebecca in and I think I can't think of his son's name, but he's got 3 of them, so bring them all in eventually. And but I think the time has to be right for that. So.
Yeah, and I suppose right now it's not really right because he hasn't had a match yet. They're not in any other than his Jericho feud. I guess they are kind of doing it right with just having Vanguard 1 and all that stuff. Or is it 2 now? Is it Vanguard 2?
I think they just called it Vanguard. I don't think they've set a number on it yet.
I don't know. I thought it was 1, either 1 or 2. I don't remember. But Bubbly Bunch is up after that, and this was my absolute favorite Bubbly Bunch ever. I want Montreal Melee to happen every week.
That was pretty great.
Other than
Hornswoggle being in there, it was great.
Lou Ferrigno with a taser. Vincent was in there. They had, and then ending it with Vicky. That was great. I loved it.
And Jericho at the end, was that Lou Ferrigno with a taser? Was perfect because I was thinking that as well. I was like, is that Lou Ferrigno?
No, I knew it was Lou Ferrigno, but the taser part was like, really? The Hulk is using a taser? What the hell? And then for him to call it back again at the end was great.
And then Jay and Silent Bob was fantastic as well.
Yep, Jay and Silent Bob and bringing in some of the when they first showed Peter Avalon get hit, I was like, oh, where are they going with this? And then they started bringing in all the other guys, and it really hit its mark.
And then Jungle Boy.
Yeah, swinging out. Jungle Boy's swinging out, and I love Vincent getting knocked out of his chair and then picking up his photographs.
Yeah.
Because that one actually might have been my favorite one because he'd gotten in so much trouble for setting up autograph signings just to make a little extra money.
Oh, he did? I didn't know about that.
Oh, yeah. He unfortunately went broke, so he'll go to an airport and set up, and it's all secondhand. I'm not going to say for sure this is exactly what happened, but it'd be things like he would just show up at an airport, set up a table, and try to charge people for his autograph.
Oh, I think it's great you called him Vincent because when he was also he's also known as Virgil, and he has and his actual name is the most generic name ever.
I have no clue what his actual name is, but
Mike Jones.
After he was part of the NWO, he'll always be Vincent to me.
Okay, fair enough.
Plus, it makes fun of Vince McMahon as opposed to making fun of Dusty Rhodes. So,
yeah, I liked that so much. And my wife's such a big fan of Jay and Silent Bob that I think this weekend I'm gonna make her sit down and I'm gonna get it set up to watch just for that part of Dynamite. Have her watch that segment.
The other part I loved was the whole Jay and Silent Bob when Kevin Smith Silent Bob was on the screen. The music shut off.
Oh, did it? I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah, that was a cool little touch too because it was Silent Bob, so they couldn't have it in the background.
Of course.
I thought that I love that whole segment this week, and I love the fact they were arguing over who won the Flim Flam challenge and all that stuff.
Yeah, I was disappointed that the couple times that they showed that they were previewing the Bubbly Bunch, they showed the Flim Flam by Jericho and not by Jake Hager.
The one by Jake Hager was definitely the best. So uncoordinated.
He has shown recently such a flair for comedy that I'm really enjoying his stuff.
The other really probably the line of the night, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but probably the line of the night was Moxley screaming into the camera to call your grandmother. I thought that was great. I laughed for probably a good 2 minutes after that.
Yeah, but it's pretty lame that his big announcement was that he was going to be live next week.
Well, I mean, that was MJF's big announcement, too. MJF had his promo where he announced he was going to be live next week, too, to save us all. Because he really cares.
Yeah, but, I mean, come on. John Moxley has had, one match in, 4 or 5 weeks, whereas MJF has not been able to wrestle because of these life-threatening injuries. I mean, he almost died from his neck being cut.
Wait, what?
What?
I didn't know about this.
Yeah, the last week he had a life-threatening hangnail, and this week he cut himself shaving on the neck, and he could have died from it.
I thought there was something legitimately happened with his match against Cody, where he got his neck cut or something. Wow, I need to go to bed.
Do you not pay attention to these vignettes by him?
Well, I was so focused on the one last week with his hangnail that I didn't really. I kind of got bits and pieces of this one, but I didn't realize that he'd cut his neck shaving. I was wondering what the neck brace was for.
He said it right in the promo.
That could have been when my kid called too, so there is that.
Wow.
Because my kid did call around that time, so I might have been hanging up with him when that promo started.
That's funny because you missed the Brit promo and you missed most of the MJF promo apparently.
And that was probably back to back, wasn't it?
No. What was back to back was the Scorpio Sky into MJF. They did that back to back.
Oh yeah, and I just completely ignored the Scorpio Sky thing because I don't understand why he's getting multiple episodes with vignettes now. Showing
it reminds me of when they did that with Mick Foley and Jim Ross, and I just think that this would have been a lot better if Jim Ross was doing the interview.
Yeah, possibly instead of him just talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've tuned out the Scorpio Sky vignettes the last 2 weeks because I don't understand why he's getting that kind of run. But some of these other guys that really deserve it, like where's Pac vignette? Where's a Lucha Brothers vignette? If they're going to do vignettes of people, they maybe should do vignettes of people that are not around and that are top stars.
Yeah, but I've been arguing this point since Dynamite started that they shouldn't be treating Scorpio Sky like a top star. And you've argued with me the entire time, and now you're saying that they're treating him like a top star. You're like, why are they treating him like a top star? What is with you tonight?
I didn't argue that I didn't think they ever were treating him like a top star. I said
they absolutely did. He was the hottest guy in the company. They made him. He was winning all the tag team matches for them. He had like the second or third title match against Chris Jericho. They absolutely were treating him like a top star.
I think that he could be a breakout performer if SCU ever breaks up and he turns heel. But other than that, I don't ever see him being a top star in his current role.
But they were definitely pushing him that way for the first 2 or 3 months of Dynamite.
Yeah, that I'm not going to disagree with. They definitely were.
Okay.
I don't believe that he'll ever be a top star as long as he stays a babyface in a trio.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
He needs to have some kind of character to him, and right now all he has is athletic ability. And, we've talked about that before, vanilla babyface number 12. That's pretty much Kip Sabian, except Kip Sabian at least is getting a little bit of a darker edge to him.
Yeah, and Kip Sabian has Penelope Ford with him.
Right. And Sean Spears has a chair.
Well, eventually he'll have Tully Blanchard back too, but yeah.
Yeah, when it's safe for Tully to travel again.
Anything else on this episode?
Not really. I mean, I was okay with it, but I also had some issues with it. I thought they had 3 very solid matches, 2 of which got really hurt by commercial breaks, and bad ending / storytelling at the end of the match. And I thought the tag match was wonderful. The squash matches were what they were. Just more ways to get over the actual faces, which I'm okay with because we've been talking for, 5 years about how we wish squash matches would return. So I'm okay with them having 3 squash matches on an episode. It doesn't bother me at all. It gets Brody Lee over. It gets, or Mr. Brody, I'm sorry, gets him over. In a way, it kind of gets Sean Spears a little bit more over, even though you hate him. And I can't remember who the other squash match was. Oh, Wardlow.
It was Wardlow.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with the squash matches because I think it helps solidify talent a little bit. I wish
I have a problem with Sean Spears being in a squash match. Let's be clear. I had a problem with the other two. It was Sean Spears having one I had a fucking problem.
There were two things I thought
if
of
they're
this
going
week.
to make him a tag team wrestler, which they've been saying for months, he shouldn't be having a single squash match.
Same thing with Dustin. He shouldn't be putting his career on the line against Kip Sabian if he's in the middle of starting up a tag team.
Yeah, but we already made that argument when they first announced the seeding for the tournament that he shouldn't be in the tournament because he's supposed to be a tag team wrestler.
Right. And one thing I thought of this week, and there were two things I thought of, and they both go back to 1980s wrestling.
I'm glad you had two thoughts this week. That's awesome.
It was two more than last week, so it was a win-win for this week. They both go back to 1980s WWF. Two things I really wish that AEW would do, especially since they're now kind of doing these squash matches, which is what I want. I want to see these kind of things. But they need to have that picture-in-picture during the entrance with whoever they're trying to build a program up against, cutting a promo on them as they're walking to the ring. I would love to see. And the other thing I would love to see is, remember in the 80s when every single wrestler had their own logo?
Yes.
Like they would bring up their name, and it would be Honky Tonk Man. He'd have that blue guitar, and then Jake the Snake would have his a python sticking out of the bag, and Macho Man would have his sunglasses. I would love to see something like that come back, where every single wrestler has their own logo again.
That would be awesome. I love both those ideas, Chuck.
They were both. I was just sitting here going, God, you know what really stinks, and I really wish would come back, and it's a perfect time because AEW is kind of bringing back the squash matches, and both those ideas dawned. And then I went and watched some WWF Superstars and Saturday Night's Main Event on WWE Network just so I could see it because I have that in my head now.
Fair enough.
So, all right, yeah, but other than that, I got nothing. I got nothing on this one. It was a decent enough episode. I'm not going to hate on it. I'm not going to say I loved it dearly. Like I said, we kind of cut down the bad parts and the good parts. The one great match, one great promo, or vignette, couple of a good promo by MJF, a good promo by Moxley, couple of decent matches that got hurt by bad storytelling. Other than that, it was a really good TV episode. I enjoyed 2 hours.
Yeah, I think they're back on track as far as having strong episodes. This definitely was a strong episode, even if there was things that we didn't like about it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they start building towards next week's episode, where they've got basically like 3 weeks of TV now to build,
4 weeks.
4 weeks of TV to build towards Double or Nothing. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that and how they build everything up.
We talked about this,
and who they're going to have available to build with.
We talked about this last night. It's actually working out perfectly. They want to do 2 live episodes before Double or Nothing. So you have the live episode next week, and you film 2 more, and then you have the go home show be a live episode. It actually works out perfectly in their favor.
Yeah, it really does.
So. But all right, guys, if you're listening, hopefully Lord's Pain Radio, you can hear us on. You can also hear us on YouTube, which if you are listening on YouTube, go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe button, ring the notification bell, leave a comment. All that stuff is fantastic. Also, our Patreon page, patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. You can go there, get all of our archives. We just put up an exclusive show last night for all of our listeners that are top tier subscribers. It's a recap of Death Before Dishonor from 2011 with Ring of Honor. And, of course, our Twitter. Everything we do, use hashtag DAD or hashtag KOH. Also, I am at Regi Co-op. He is at Zanman LOP. And you can find us there pretty nice and easy.
There was a story that came out that I saw right before we went on the air that we might want to talk about next week on Kingdom of Honor. If there's more to the story or it builds in the next few days, that Vince McMahon may be looking at selling the WWE to ESPN and Fox.
Yeah, I saw that
It's come
too.
up a few times over the years, and but every time it comes up, it seems like there's a little bit more heat to it. So um, it'd be interesting to see if there's more to that story the next few days we could talk about on Monday. But what we'll definitely be talking about on Monday is the second part of Impact's Rebellion pay-per-view.
And you didn't get any of the results, right?
I have not. Have you?
Okay, yeah, I got slammed with a couple of notifications because I guess something really big happened last night. So stay away from your notifications. Don't click on Google so that you don't have it ruined for you. But it'll definitely be it ties in with yesterday, and it'll definitely be something worth talking about on Tuesday.
Yeah, I realized that last night, like when you started talking about, would they really have the world title change at this time, and then you said something else, and I kind of lost my thread. But I was going to respond to that. I was going to say, well, I think what would be really cool is if like Michael came out there was like declaring himself the new champion, and then they had a surprise come out there to wrestle for that championship, like for the vacant title. But well, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. So
okay. Let's see. So tomorrow night is MCLP Radio Adventure. On Friday is the WWF The Legacy Series. And then that's what we got going on. We'll try to do it next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
goodbye.
G1 Climax 27. Goodbye and good night. Bang.